The Golf Association of Philadelphia. Founded in 1897, it is the oldest regional or state golf association in the country. Started by 7 influential Philadelphia men from 4 clubs, the association maintains the same values today as it did when its forefathers created it, to preserve, protect, and promote the game of golf. The ancient sport started to gain great popularity in America around the time of GAP's founding. 3 years earlier, the United States Golf Association was formed. After a friendly competition in 1896 between Devon Golf Club and Philadelphia Cricket Club, it was determined an organization was needed to broaden the game's local appeal. That competition morphed into GAP's cornerstone event, the GAP Team Matches. On February 5, 1897, outside of the Market Street National Bank, representatives from the Belmont Golf Association, now known as Aronimink Golf Club, Marion Cricket Club, Philadelphia Country Club, and Philadelphia Cricket Club met. GAP was born. It's no coincidence the association's early champions remain an influence in GAP today. Albert Hazeltine Smith, the GAP's first champion, was the leader of the most significant group of men in Philadelphia golf history. In the early 1900s, Philadelphia Duffers struggled to compete against brethren from New York, Boston, and Chicago. So Smith stood tall, and along with his fellow golfing visionaries, collectively referred to as the Philadelphia School of Architecture, flipped the script. Countless clubs benefited from the group's touch, with 3 of the founding 4 maybe being the biggest beneficiaries. Marion Golf Club's fabled East Course was built in 1912 by agronomy expert and Philadelphia School and Marion member Hugh Wilson. The Ardmore Avenue masterpiece, a vision of Wilson's studies. A decade later, an outspoken A.W. Tillinghast built Philadelphia Cricket Club's gem of a Wissahickon course. Tillinghast, a Renaissance man who, like Wilson, was a club member, was vocal about the importance of building a new modern golf course on land owned by the club. His resume included some of the most iconic tests in golf. Philadelphia Country Club moved to its location in 1924, where William Flynn completed a work of art. Flynn, though a native New Englander, embodied the eagerness and collaborative spirit of the Philadelphia School. He would mimic nature in truly brilliant ways, said local Flynn expert Wayne Morrison. The odd club out was Aronimink Golf Club. Though not designed by a Philadelphia School pupil, the club turned to one of the most recognizable designers of that age, the venerable Donald Ross. His words say it best. When Albert Hazeltine Smith won the 1897 Philadelphia Individual Championship, he did so out of Philadelphia cricket. The very next year, his brother William Pulteney Smith and running mate Harold McFarland started a club trend that continues to this day. The 5th club GAP welcomed, Huntingdon Valley Country Club, has produced far and away more champions than any other club. For starters, it has won a record 33 GAP team match titles, a great point of club pride. In addition to William Pulteney Smith and Harold McFarland, Huntingdon Valley has produced an unmatched roll call of champions. Its most decorated linksman is William Hindman III, a brilliant shot maker. Hindman headlined the Philadelphia golf scene for an astounding 6 decades. He won his first amateur championship at age 19 in 1935. At age 67, he became the oldest USGA national champion with a victory in the 1983 U.S. Senior Amateur. In between, Hindman hauled in 15 GAP major titles, including a record 10 Joseph H. Patterson Cups. How good was Hindman? The legendary Bobby Jones sent Hindman a framed photo after serving as his U.S. captain in the inaugural World Amateur Team Championship. The note read, "The 17th hole, the road hole, St. Andrews, where I saw Billy Hindman hit the greatest shot of my life."
He had a creativity about him. There was just almost no shot that he couldn't play. He was such a perfectionist, and he was so good that when he hit a bad shot, sometimes he would let it get to him. Bill Hyman clearly was one of the finest amateurs ever to play the game. And I think if you look at Philadelphia, Jay Siegel, Bill Hyman, Buddy Marucci's done well. On a national basis, there are a lot of good players that have come out of Philadelphia.
Hindman represents 1/3 of Gap's Holy Trinity. The first member of that triad was J. Wood Platt. The impeccably dressed Platt and his familiar bow tie dominated Philadelphia golf for 5 decades. He still holds a record 7 amateur titles and a record 7 Silver Cross Awards. The White Marsh Valley Country Club figurehead also captured the very first U.S. Senior Amateur Championship. However, Platt's greatest impact came off the course. He is the only 2-time Gap president, and he is the namesake of Gap's charitable arm. Since 1958, the J. Wood Platt Caddy Scholarship Trust has awarded $25 million to more than 3,700 young men and women caddies. Just give them all a chance, Platt said. The final member of Gap's Holy Trinity is arguably the greatest amateur of all time. A ball-striking savant, R.J. Siegel was the star attraction whenever he put a tee in the ground. He overcame a debilitating hand injury to win 13 Gap major titles, including a record 6 Open Championships. Siegel captured a record 11 Pennsylvania Amateur Championships. He was a 9-time Walker Cupper and holds the record for most wins at 18. Siegel was the low amateur in 3 Masters. In the 1980s, the Aronimink Star was a national force. He won 5 USGA championships, including the 1982 and 1983 U.S. Amateurs. Siegel amassed 3 U.S. Mid-Am victories, his 1985 triumph proving the most challenging. He faced fellow Gap icon and close friend O. Gordon Brewer Jr. in the final.
There was nothing to dislike about Gordon Brewer. It was a weird feeling, maybe the most weird feeling I've ever had against an opponent. It's like I was playing my dad. I mean, Gordon's a great guy, family man, Bob Jones winner, all of the above. He's given back immensely over his lifetime. So I couldn't find any reason to beat him. He said, you really made some not bad shots, uncharacteristic shots, which I did. And the press said, well, he's going to out-putt you and you're going to out-drive him and out-perform his shots. And not really, it was just the other way around. I putted beautifully and he did not make his putts that he normally does. So it was great fun, and it's good to be with him. Gordon Brewer was an equal player to myself, and plus he's as nice a guy as you'll ever meet. So to lose to a friend, a nice guy, what's there to be sad about? All you want to do is perform, do the best you can, and that's it. It's over. Move on.
And Jay had an extra gear. He could, we would be within a few yards of each other distance-wise. But he had a gear I didn't have. If he wanted to hit another 15, 20 yards, he could do it. Now, obviously, it had the risk of losing a little of the accuracy, but Jay had, and he had an incredible ability to just stay level-headed.
Gap's longevity can be credited to a collection of caretakers. Its first was President George Fow. Since, 33 individuals have been elected to preside over the association and its mission for golf in Philadelphia, to preserve, protect, and promote the game. Outside of the presidency, Francis B. Warner and Frank H. Chapman shouldered the bulk of matters from 1915 to 1955. In 1952, Peg Burnett was instituted as Gap's first de facto executive director. A stickler for the rules who was beloved by all, she passed the baton to James Sykes in 1977. Sykes, an accomplished amateur in his own right, oversaw the most important moment in local golf politics when in 1996, public facilities were welcomed into Gap. It was immediate past president Bill Walsh of Philadelphia Country Club who supplied the boardroom voice.
Once they were able to get Aronimink, Marion, Pine Valley, and Philadelphia Country Club on board, he felt a lot more confident that he could sell the rest of the clubs. Got it past the executive committee, and when they went to the other clubs about allowing public golf or daily fee golf clubs into the Gap, he knew he had that ammunition. They could meet with them one-on-one, and using his salesman tools from life insurance, he went ahead and thinking it was going to be about a 55% approval. They ended up getting 85% approval.
Mark Peterson followed Sykes in 2000. The youngest executive director in the country, he was 24 at the time. Peterson oversees an ever-expanding association.
I believe the story is really told by Craig Ammerman best when he called me to say, we're going to wait a couple weeks because your 25th birthday reads a lot better in the paper than 24. I can remember, sweating getting ready for executive committee meetings. I can remember being terrified at the first amateur championship. An organization that has the history that it does, and to come after a fairly legendary administrator in Jim Sykes, and even before him, Peg Burnett, I knew I had big shoes to fill. When I started as an intern in '96, we had under 100 member clubs and just about 35,000 members. Fast forward to today with an expanded region that takes us on the eastern half of Pennsylvania, central and South Jersey, and all of Delaware, to be at nearly 350 clubs and 95,000 members has been more than an overwhelming growth period for us, an exciting one, and an opportunity for us to expand services, expand the staff, and have just more opportunities to help people enjoy the game of golf.
Gap today stands at more than 340 member clubs and 95,000 members. A pair of mergers have added to Gap's footprint. In 2018, Gap merged with the Anthracite Golf Association. In 2022, the Delaware State Golf Association also came aboard. Expanding its services and reach continues. Gap's most impactful efforts involve moving the once all-male organization into a group accepting of all. In 2014, Gap welcomed Noreen Moeller, its first female executive committee member. In 2018, it established a women's committee. In 2022, Gap conducted the first ever women's championship.
I think that we need to encourage women to play, compete, and have the experience. Because I think whether they want to, chase their competitive dreams, or they just want to learn life lessons and network, golf is a wonderful tool that we want them all to be aware of. We have crawled before we walked before we run, but we realize that as we look at our demographics of nearly 17,000 women members of our 95,000 members, we need to have programming for them. Women's programming is something that is near and dear to my heart, and I am really focused on.
Public and private, male and female, junior and senior, scratch and net players, they are all welcome. 25 years ago, Gap celebrated its centennial with Arnold Palmer as its honored guest at the Pennsylvania Convention Center. Since, that logo has meant many things to many people. Michael McDermott sits among a quartet that has been the most visible in Gap the last 25 years. McDermott and his long-hitting contemporary Jeff Osberg have won a combined 15 majors since 2001, and they're still going. Both are also heavily involved in program development for the next generation. Chris Lang, an Overbrook legend and Gap Hall of Famer, was the first to complete the Gap Grand Slam in 2004. He has his hands tied to the current Cobbs Creek restoration project, Lang's good friend Chip Lutz stormed shores far and wide in becoming the top-ranked senior player in the world in the second decade of this century. Lutz is the first to capture the career life cycle.
And I have so many, great memories. I can remember being here at Huntington Valley at the age of 11, playing in the juniors against Chip Lutz, who I just saw outside. And just last year, here at Huntington Valley, I was able to shoot my age, which was a big surprise. So that's that's from the age of 11 to the age of almost 68. So, I've got tremendous respect for Gap and everything you guys do.
Golf here at Gap has just always been, home for me. And I've just loved playing here. I've now returned back to the Philly area after having competed internationally and throughout the country, and I still consider this to be home, and it's just gives me a great sense of pride to have been able to accomplish a lifetime of winning from the time I was young to now that I'm older to have accomplished what I have.
All of these men can claim ties to their predecessors, hoisting the trophies the legends did before them. Gap, known for its rich championship administration, today still conducts 6 events that are more than 100 years old.
So there was a sort of an embedded respect for the history of Gap. I remember in particular being younger and starting to get a little better, and my dad would talk a lot about Jay Siegel and Gordon Brewer and Buddy Marucci and on. And it was always something that I aspired to be, to sort of be part of Gap in the same way that they were regarded as a part of Gap. That didn't happen overnight, certainly, but it was always something that I aspired to be a part of. The other certainly is just the size of the Gap, right? And everything that the Gap does now is just incredible, right? It's multi-state, it's men, it's women, it's junior, it's net. And so it's really incredible how the Gap has grown to try to care for everybody and not just about the Philly Am. And I think that's a terrific thing, because golf is not just a low handicap sport.
And all did so under a Gap logo that's undergone 3 costume changes. The third, and more recent, debuting in 2019. Gap communicates to its members differently today than before.
The biggest difference is when I first started getting active in Gap, my first year sort of bursting on the scene was around 2000. I had played before, but that was when I really began to play a lot. That was the first year Mark Peterson, Kirby, and others became part of the Gap as well, or were in charge of the Gap, I should say. That was really the time when Gap just took it to an entirely new level. With the way they ran the tournaments and the social media, which is a newer thing, but just the video and articles and all the reporting on it was just incredible. So I think that's been a big change, how the coverage of the tournaments and how people outside of playing in it can follow it and really get behind it.
But the message has never changed in 125 years. Gap is here to preserve, protect, and promote your game of golf.